Hey everyone, welcome to IJustWatched. I'm Joseph, and we're discussing Wednesday, the Netflix original, heavily by Tim Burton. But before we get into it, I gotta hit you with the usual, which is hopefully you like this enough to smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell to get notified. I'll be jumping into all 8 episodes of the whole series, so if you haven't seen it yet, spoiler warning, just to let you know if you haven't started it or you haven't finished it. I was intrigued, I was excited. I was hoping this show was gonna be I was hoping it was gonna be a banger and I was gonna love it. Right off the bat, there's too much that just doesn't sit with me. There's too much that I just didn't love or like. A lot of little things. For one, I don't like the fact that they turned Pugsley into a giant whack ass bitch. They made him a punk for no reason. I always liked Pugsley. He is similar to Wednesday, except where Wednesday is cold blooded, savage, extremely capable. She is genius. Pugsley is everything but the genius. And they just turned him into like an emotional little punk and afraid of everything. And I'm not against him having like the high level of emotions, but the fact that he was just so incapable by himself. I understand it's Wednesday, so they're trying to, I guess, elevate her, but I always thought like she was already better than him because everything she could do it better, but she was also extremely intelligent. The chemistry of Gomez and Morticia to me felt lacking. It didn't feel genuine when they're like in the car going to Nevermore. When they go to do that first kiss, there was like this weird hesitation, and it didn't feel like they were madly, deeply in love for each other. It kind of just felt like, we have to do this. And it pushed throughout the whole series. Every time you'd see them and they try to do that over the top affection that is them, it never felt genuine, never just felt natural. Little things like that just didn't sit with me, so it just kind of kept taking me out of the show, kept me from really enjoying it. Jenna Ortega did a great job. I thought she was perfectly cast. I think she did a really good job. I liked the design of her different outfits. I liked the stare and her look, the way she would do things. And I like the fact that you would see her emotional range kind of adapt, because Wednesday is not an emotionless character. None of them are. They're highly involved with their emotions. It's just a different thing that pleases them, that evokes their emotions. But they're still emotional creatures. So I like the fact that they kind of played with it throughout the series. My only knock with the situation with Jenna Ortega as Wednesday was sometimes she was like super pale and had like shadowy eyes, which was perfect. But then other times her natural, I think she has beautiful skin tone, like natural caramel tone would come out, and it wouldn't be an issue, but like for the character Wednesday, it is an issue. Like same thing with Morticia. Like they can't be tan. They're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be pale white. They're supposed to be dead white, so to speak. There was moments when it would just go back and forth. If they would have just stuck to one, preferably, makeup and making her look pale white, because this is part of the character. It's not a huge deal, but it was just like a small little detail. Like no one really cared enough to say anything or to adjust it. Like, I don't know, it's just something where it's a small detail, so it's not a huge deal, but the fact that it is a small detail and no one decided to adjust or fix it is also a problem. But I mean, that was my biggest knock, and it's not really towards her. It was just, I guess, towards the design or editing or whatever. So it's not really on her. And the Hyde creature, so we didn't know it was a Hyde creature till later, but don't like the design at all. It looks too cartoony. It screams Tim Burton, which makes sense being that Tim Burton was like the head of this. But in a world where everything looks realistic and has this like real feel, seeing that like goofy looking Tim Burton design that looks super cartoony amongst everything just didn't work for me. So it kept the monster from being creepy or scary. It kept it from really being intimidating. It looked extremely goofy, especially trying to mix into this like terrifying moments or these moments of grandeur. You're like, oh shit, what's going on? And you just see this goofy ass looking creature, and I'm just like, alright. Like at the end of the first episode, they give you like a preview to this season. So they're like really pushing to get multiple seasons and try to expand on this, which I wouldn't have been against, but honestly, this season to me wasn't great. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but nothing in it really stood out. Nothing in it was like, oh wow, I want more of this. I was kind of like, alright, I mean, I've seen it. The rewatchability of this show to me is super lackluster, and that's a big deal. My favorite movies, shows, it's the rewatchability, the readability, the wanting to go through that experience. Where this, I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I watched it, but I'm not trying to go out of my way to talk about it. I'm not trying to go out of my way to watch any part of it again. For someone like me who loves to binge, I was trying to binge it and I had to take breaks because I just couldn't get into it. There's just too much going on that I just wasn't a fan of. I killed longer shows in less time. Not everything in the show is bad. I thought the music was great. They chose some great music. I love the Latin music they threw in. La Llorona is a beautiful song. I enjoyed all the Edgar Allan Poe references and connections. I thought that was great. I don't know a lot about him, but I do enjoy his poetry. So by episode 2, my gut was telling me Tyler was going to be the problem. Either he was the monster connected to the monster, And then episode 3 basically confirmed that for me, because the conversation and the lack of backstory or wanting to dive into who his mom was or why they can't talk about it, his relationship with his dad. I was like, okay, never mind. You know what? You're definitely the monster somehow. Your mom was most likely a student at Nevermore, and they met in Jericho, and she turned out to be some kind of monster. Something happened, she died, or something like that along those lines. That's why the dad refuses to talk about it. I know I'm dogging it. So, I mean, another thing I liked was Thing. I mean, I had said it like in the trailers. I like the stitching on his hand. I thought it was a neat design for him, because design-wise, like I said, dislike the monster. But Thing's design was cool, just seeing the stitching. Like, everything in the show that was brought back to life very much was Frankenstein, because it had stitching or repairs and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Burton, it wasn't bad. Like I said, I like that part of it. I like that aspect. Thing, for one, had so much charisma. For a show with so many moving pieces and so many characters who are able to talk and have faces, everything was really bland except for, like, Thing. It was great, and I love Thing for it, and I think they did that great. But why did everyone else fall so short compared to a hand? Best thing, the absolutely best thing about the show is Jenna Ortega slaughtering it on the dance floor as Wednesday. That scene was the best thing of the show, no question. That's the one thing that I was like, oh, I gotta watch this again. This whole show, 8 episodes long, that is the only moment that really made me go, oh, this is great. This is the one thing I want to watch again. But it's literally the small dancing, because she killed it. I like the way she had, like, the whole look, the moves, the combination, the little homage to the classic show, black and white back in the day. Just little things in that scene and her dance, great. Parts of the show didn't hit for me because a lot of it just felt super obvious. Trying to set things up where, like, Morticia Gomez and the Gates kid supposed to be these moments of, oh shit, that's crazy, you know? I was kind of expecting it, and I was like, all right, I mean, there's nothing new, nothing super crazy happening. It's just all right. Another great thing was when Thing himself had the little party hat for her birthday. I thought that was hilarious. Not enough to save the show, but I thought it was great. Episode 6, I was thinking, okay, we're talking about the Gates family, Crackstone's crazy ass. I was assuming that the Gates were going to be somehow descendants of Crackstone. Same episode, the drowned daughter. I was like, nah, no body found. And then you see Christina Ricci. I was like, she's clearly going to be the drowned Gates girl coming back for revenge. That's why she's working at the school. And then, of course, she was the main villain. The hide was just her muscle. I like the idea of, you know, having her be involved like that and be like, oh shit, she's the villain. Credit, because I thought the sheriff was covering up for her son and he knew the whole time. I was wrong. And the concept of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde being a, like, genetic thing that gets passed through generations and can be activated and stuff like that, I think it's interesting. Maybe we'll dive more into it if they do push forward. Definitely just like the fact that at the end Tyler just escapes. You see him locked, but then he wakes up and starts turning into his goofy self. Like I said earlier, none of the characters outside of really the only 3 characters to me that had any redeeming factors or characteristics or that I cared about remotely. Obviously Wednesday, Thing kept referencing or referring to my little homie, and Enid. Those are the only 3 out of these, all the classmates, the teachers, the family. No one else stood out. No one else did anything. Fester was awful. That shit was whack. A show with all these people, it sucks the fact that, like, the star, one of the most charismatic characters, was just a hand, which leads into the finale where, you know, people are dying or this person's in danger. I was like, nah, I don't care. As long as things fine. Enid wolfed out, which fucking great. I'm so super happy for her, and I love the fact that she had the pink hair as a werewolf. I thought it was great, and I was honestly worried about the design of the werewolf because of what the hell they did with the hide, and they gave us a pretty clean looking werewolf design, so thank God, because I love werewolves. Not super important, but when Crackstone gets brought back, his face and design, I immediately was thinking of the Leprechaun. I don't know if you guys have seen him or remember back in the day. It was like 90s, 2000s. They had like a bunch of Leprechaun horror movies. And I mean, my favorite one is the one where he's like in the hood. The only question I have is at the very end, when they're setting up this whole stalker, Xavier gives her a new phone. She turns it on, and the stalker's immediately texting her and sending her images and shit like that. And I was like, how is it not Xavier? Because he literally just gave you the box with the phone. Unless when he got the phone, he went about and put everyone's information in and gave it out to everyone and then gave it to her. What the show really did at the end of the whole thing is make me miss Sabrina. The, was it Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch? Or like, that show to me was fun. I loved it. I liked the characters. I was in. I cared about things, and I really enjoyed that show. This made me miss that. This did not make me crave more of Wednesday or anything really. But I want to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about it? If you loved it, please let me know down below why you loved it. What do you think about it was great? I personally don't care for a second season, but again, I do want to hear your thoughts. Did you love it? What did you love about it? But until next time, stay safe, be well, y con mucho amor. Adios.